If you're looking at getting a new monitor or wireless video transmitter receiver, I have a new product that you may be interested in. This is the latest monitor wireless video transmitter receiver from Hollyland, the Hollyland Mars M1 Enhanced. Good morning everyone, Rich Wong here. Welcome back to the channel. The Hollyland Mars M1 Enhanced is an update version of the original Hollyland Mars M1 monitor that I reviewed on this channel last year. I was a bit surprised when Hollyland told me they are releasing this new version, as the original version was released only about 12 months ago. This new version comes with a few improvements, but interestingly, the price is $499 which is $50 cheaper than the original Mars M1 that cost $549. So in this video, we are going to check out this latest Mars M1 Enhanced monitor. I will also show you what are the new changes compared to the original version. A quick disclaimer before we start. The sample I used in this review was sent to me by Hollyland, but as usual, this is a completely independent review, just like all the other reviews on this channel. The Mars M1 Enhanced is a 5.5-inch monitor. It weighs about 400 grams. So it is small and light enough to be attached to the camera directly for a run and gun setup. The build quality of this device is pretty solid. It doesn't have any plasticky feeling at all. It feels like a premium product and it has better build quality than my Atomos Ninja 5. The design of this Mars M1 Enhanced is almost identical to the original Mars M1. Exactly the same size and pretty much exactly the same aesthetic design. We have two short antennas at the top, identical to the one on the original Mars M1. We have a 1/4-inch thread at the bottom, another 1/4-inch thread on the side with a headphone jack and a USB-C port next to it. And on the opposite side, we have a HDMI input and a HDMI output port. Put the Mars M1 Enhanced next to the original Mars M1, you really can't tell which is which. Even the model name printed at the front of the device is still Mars M1. When you turn the monitor around, we have the same power button, the MPF battery slot, as well as a SDI input port. But the DC input and output jack now use a threaded connector, so you can lock your DC cable and provide a more solid connection. And that is pretty much the only exterior difference between this new enhanced version and the original Mars M1. It is not a bad thing, as it means if you got a case or some accessories for the original Mars M1, you can now use that on this new version as well. However, I would prefer if the color of this new version is a bit different, so for people who has both the original version and the new one, they can tell which is which easily. The screen is a touch screen and it is very responsive. The brightness of the screen is 1000 nits, which is identical to the original version. It's reasonably bright and great for indoor and even outdoor as long as it's not under bright direct sunlight. If you want to use it outdoor under direct sunlight, it can be a bit hard to see the screen. So it might be a good idea to get some kind of sun hood to cover the screen. I find the colors are excellent and also the color seems to be pretty accurate to my eyes. In my review of the original Hollyland Mars M1, I said this. User interface wise, well, I think Hollyland can polish it up a bit to make the user interface looks a little bit better. So I'm not too sure if it's because Hollyland has watched my video. They have completely redesigned the whole user interface and they call it HollyOS. This is the biggest changes to the M1 Enhanced and I love it. The new user interface looks a lot more polished and also a lot easier to use. For example, if you want to enable the anamorphic discrete with the original Mars M1, you would first tap the anamorphic icon once to turn on this feature, and then you have to keep tapping on the same icon until you got the correct discrete factor you want to use. It's the same when you want to disable the anamorphic discrete. you have to tap and cycle through all the options until it is back to off. And if you accidentally tap past the correct option you want, which I did all the time, then you have to tap a few more times until you cycle back to the value that you want to choose. But now with the new HollyOS user interface, clicking on the anamorphic icon would only toggle on or off this feature. If you want to change the discrete factor, you tap on the settings icon at the bottom right to bring up the setup screen. Then you can see all the different options and you just click on the one that you want. It may not sound like a big deal, but these changes actually hugely improve the user experience, as you directly choose what you want rather than being forced to cycle through all the different options, and you can toggle on off the feature very easily as well. After I use this new enhanced version for a while and then I go back to the original one, I found this new version just so much easier and faster to use. There's now also animation when you are scrolling through the options, which make the user interface feels a lot more modern. If you want to display waveform, histogram or vector scope, with the original Mars M1, you can only enable one at a time. But now with the enhanced version, you can enable all of them at the same time and drag them to anywhere on the screen. There is a large number of on-screen display overlays that you can choose. I already mentioned the waveform, histogram, vector scope. There's also zebra, peaking, aspect ratio frame markers, grid, and you can also have the anamorphic discrete and 3D LUT support. So pretty much anything that you can think of is there for you to use. With this new enhanced version, there are also more settings available for some of these features. For example, with the zebra, you can adjust the upper and lower IRE level limit, so only the brightness within these two limits would have zebra pattern. With the anamorphic discrete, you can choose all the common discrete factors, but you can also set your custom discrete factor. For waveform, you can choose either the regular one or RGB waveform. For grids, you can choose your grid size, line width, and color. And these are just some of the new settings that come with the Mars M1 Enhanced. Overall, the user interface and setting of this new M1 Enhanced is a big improvement over the original M1, and it is one of the best user interface I've seen on similar products. However, it is not perfect. For example, the battery percentage number is really quite hard to read. The size of the fonts could be a bit larger instead of having a lot of spaces, so the larger font would make it easier to read. Some of the settings, you need to scroll the screen horizontally to find them. I would prefer the settings tab take up a little bit more vertical space so you can see all the settings without having to scroll horizontally. The alignment of the text and icons are left aligned on this screen, so some text is pretty much touching the border on the right side, while there's quite a bit of space on the left side. I know I may be nitpicking, as the user interface of this Mars M1 Enhanced is already a lot better than the original Mars M1. This Hollyland Mars M1 Enhanced has both a HDMI input and a SDR input. So it can work with mirrorless cameras, which usually would have the HDMI output, or professional video cameras that usually uses SDI. HDMI input is up to 4K 30p. SDI is a 3G SDI, which means it can handle up to 1080p 60. There is a HDMI loop out port, so you can pass through the video signal from any input source to other devices. One thing I want to mention is, while the M1 Enhanced can receive 4K input signal up to 30 frames per second through HDMI, the display resolution is only Full HD because the resolution of the panel is Full HD. A lot of these specs are kind of standard and very similar to a lot of latest monitors in the market. But what makes this Mars M1 special is that you can use it as a monitor as well as a wireless video transmitter, and it can transmit video signal wirelessly to compatible Hollyland transmission systems. You can connect up to 2 Hollyland receivers or up to 4 mobile devices running the Hollyland app. One thing you need to aware is that if you use this monitor as a wireless transmitter, the transmitted signal is downscaled to 1080p even if the source signal is 4K. Or you can use this Mars M1 Enhance as a video receiver and use it to receive and display the video signal sent from a compatible Hollyland transmitter. This just gives you a lot of flexibility if you work with a team and need to transmit video wirelessly. In terms of range, Hollyland claims it is 150 meter or 450 feet with direct line of sight. When I reviewed the original M1, I did some tests and I managed to get 200 meter range with direct line of sight. I haven't tested the maximum range with this enhanced version, but since this M1 Enhanced is mostly the same as the original version, I believe the direct line of sight transmission range will be pretty much the same. If you are working in an indoor location with walls and other things that would block or interfere the signal, then the range could be a lot shorter. But the M1 Enhanced does have a smart channel scan feature which will automatically scan and search for the frequency that gives you the least amount of interference. Of course, you can manually choose the channel if you want to. In terms of latency, the official figure is 0.05 second or 50 millisecond when using 1080p signal. I did some tests myself and found the latency is around 60 milliseconds or so it is quite close to the claimed figure. It is not zero latency, but for a wireless system at this price point, I think it is pretty decent. One other improvement comes with this new enhanced version is that if you want to use it as a monitor, you can turn off the wireless module to reduce power consumption, and it should also help lower the temperature of the device as well. Speaking of temperature, the monitor does warm up quite a bit even when I'm using it indoor when the temperature is around 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It has a built-in cooling fan to help cool the device down. The fan is not super noisy like the Atomos Ninja 5, but you can definitely hear it when doing indoor recording, especially if your microphone is close to the monitor. And that's the reason why I don't use the Mars M1 when recording my usual talking head video in this room, as my microphone is almost right next to the monitor. But if the microphone is not placed next to the monitor, or if you're using it outdoor, then the noise should not be a problem. There is a red record button on the screen. Press that button and it would record video signal to its built-in memory. So it sounds like a fantastic feature, and this feature was also available on the original Mars M1 after one of the firmware updates. But to be honest, I just really not sure what this feature is for. Firstly, there is a 2 minutes time limit, which is understandable as it just records to the internal memory. But the thing that really puzzles me is the video cannot be transferred or copied to a USB device or anywhere else, and the recorded video will be deleted once you turn off the monitor. So yes, you can use this feature to capture something and replay it straight away on the monitor. But with all these limitations, I just really don't know how useful this feature is in real life. I'm not too sure if it's due to some technical or legal reasons we have these limitations. What I really want is to be able to record video to the USB port and not have any recording limit. That would make this feature a lot more useful. As I mentioned earlier in this review, I really was surprised to see this Mars M1 Enhanced monitor. A lot of the core feature and specs are pretty much the same as the original version, so this Mars M1 Enhanced is not a huge improvement compared to the original Mars M1, but it does come with a lot of good quality of life improvements like the brand new user interface, some additional settings, and the threaded connector for the DC input and output. If you already have the original Mars M1, you probably don't need to upgrade to this new version. But if you have been thinking of getting the original Mars M1 because it is a pretty solid product, then this new version does make it even more attractive, especially the retail price is $50 cheaper than the original version. By the way, I was in China a few months ago and I went to visit Hollyland's headquarters in Shenzhen and check out their office and factory there. So if you're interested to see how Hollyland manufacture and test their products, you should check out this video that I shot at Hollyland's headquarters.